Welcome to A Year of War and Peace. I'm your host, Brian E. Denton. A Year of War and Peace is a daily, year-long, chapter-by-chapter reading of and meditation on Leo Tolstoy's epic novel, War and Peace. In these videos and podcasts, you'll be treated to a free reading of one chapter per day of the novel, plus a reflective essay I've written individually tailored to that day's chapter. These readings are offered for free, though if you'd like to support me, you can do so in one of three ways. First, you could purchase my ebook, A Year of War and Peace. It features the entire novel, plus all of my reflective essays, and it's only $2.99 on Amazon.com. You could also become a patron at patreon.com/Brian E. Denton. If you sign up there, you'll receive a sonnet once a month, plus a link to an ebook of my collected sonnets. Finally, if you like, you can make a one-time donation to my PayPal account. The email there is brianedenton@gmail.com. You can also use that email to contact me. I'd be happy to hear from you. Your support is greatly appreciated. Today's reading and reflection is on Chapter 255. Chapter 255. The glow of the first fire that began on the 2nd of September was watched from the various roads by the fugitive Muscovites and by the retreating troops with many different feelings. The Rostov party spent the night at Myasniki, 14 miles from Moscow. They had started so late on the 1st of September, the road had been so blocked by vehicles and troops, so many things had been forgotten for which servants were sent back, that they had decided to spend that night at a place 3 miles out of Moscow. The next morning they woke late, and were again delayed so often that they only got as far as Great Myasniki. At 10 o'clock that evening, the Rostov family and the wounded traveling with them were all disturbed in the yards and huts of that large village. The Rostov servants and coachmen and the orderlies and the wounded officers, after attending to their masters, had supper, fed the horses, and came out into the porches. In a neighboring hut lay Raevsky's adjutant with a fractured wrist. The awful pain he suffered made him moan incessantly and piteously, and his moaning sounded terrible in the darkness of the autumn night. He had spent the first night in the same yard as the Rostovs. The countess said he had been unable to close her eyes on account of his moaning, and at Myasniki she moved into a worse hut simply to be further away from the wounded man. In the darkness of the night, one of the servants noticed, above the high body of a coach standing before the porch, the small glow of another fire. One glow had long been visible, and everybody knew that it was little Myasniki burning, set on fire by Mamonov's Cossacks. "But look here, brothers, there's another fire," remarked an orderly. All turned their attention to the glow. "But they told us little Myasniki had been set on fire by Mamonov's Cossacks." "But that's not Myasniki. It's farther away. Look, it must be Moscow." Two of the gazers went around to the other side of the coach and sat down on its steps. "It's more to the left. Why, little Myasniki's over there, and this is to the right of the other side." Several men joined the first two. "See how it's flaring?" said one. "That's a fire in Moscow, either in the Suchevsky or the Rogoshi quarter." No one replied to this remark, and for some time they all gazed silently at the spreading flames of the second fire in the distance. Old Daniel Terentich, the Count's valet, as he was called, came up to the group and shouted at Mishka. "What are you staring at, you good-for-nothing? The Count will be calling, and there's nobody here. Go and gather the clothes together." "I only ran out to get some water," said Mishka. "But what do you think, Daniel Tenrich? Doesn't it look as if that glow were in Moscow?" remarked one of the footmen. Daniel Tenrich made no reply, and again for a long time they were all silent. The glow spread, rising and falling, farther and farther still. "God have mercy, it's windy and dry," said another. "Just look! See what it's doing now? Oh, Lord, you can even see the crows flying. Lord, have mercy on us sinners." "They'll put it out, no fear." "Who's to put it out?" Daniel Taranich, who had hitherto been silent, was heard to say. His voice was calm and deliberate. "Moscow it is, brothers," said he. "Mother Moscow, the White." His voice faltered, and he gave way to an old man's sobs. And it was as if they all had waited for this to realize the significance for them of the glow they were watching. Sighs were heard, words of prayer, and the sobbing of the Count's old valet. All right, so that concludes my reading of chapter 255. I will now proceed to my reflection on the same. A Year of War and Peace, day 255. Sometimes the bear eats you. In the Coen brothers' classic, The Big Lebowski, the stranger imparts a little far from Eastern wisdom to the dude, comforting the long-suffering hero with the sage insight that sometimes you eat the bear, and sometimes, well, he eats you. Right now, the bear is feasting on the Muscovites. They've been pushed out of their mother city, and now, rich and poor alike, surviving in huts alongside the road away from the capital. They're tired. They're upset. Moans and lamentations from the wounded pollute the air. Then, one night, looking back at Moscow, they spot the demon glow of fire as their city burns. Human suffering and how to negotiate it has been a major theme of A Year of War and Peace. This is, after all, a project about a Tolstoy novel. You're just as likely to read about suffering as you are to read a preposition. One thing we've learned along the way, if it wasn't already clear from our own experience, is that suffering is inextricably linked with existence. Misfortune, to quote Schopenhauer again, is the general rule. If this were not the case, then we wouldn't have sickness, old age, death, or the MTA. Sometimes the bear eats you. One approach to confronting the bear that is eating you is to reflect that the situation is either one designed by God and full of providence, or the result of the random play of indifferent, arbitrary atoms. Either way, the power of control lies wholly without your own authority. You're only a part, and a small part at that, of the whole. Daily meditation. For to the foot I shall say that it is according to nature for it to be clean. But if you take it as a foot, and as a thing not detached and dependent, it will befit it both to step into the mud and tread on thorns, and sometimes to be cut off for the good of the whole body. Otherwise it is no longer a foot. We should think in some such way about ourselves also. What are you? A man. If you consider yourself as detached from other men, it is according to nature to live to old age, to be rich, and to be healthy. But if you consider yourself as a man, that is part of a certain whole, it is for the sake of that whole that at one time you should be sick, at another time be in want, and in some cases die prematurely. Why then are you troubled? Do you not know that as a foot it is no longer a foot if it is detached from the body? So you are no longer a man if you are separated from other men? For what is man? A part of a state, of that first which consists of gods and of men, then of that which is called next to it, which is still a small image of the universal state. Epictetus, The Discourses. All right, so that concludes my reading of and reflection on chapter 256 of War and Peace. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for listening today. Remember that if you'd like to support me, you can do so by either purchasing the ebook, A Year of War and Peace, becoming a patron at patreon.com, or making a one-time donation at PayPal. The links to all that are down below in the description. Your support is greatly appreciated. Tomorrow, we will be reading and reflecting on chapter 256. I hope you'll join me. Until then, take care of yourselves and others.